Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, on Android, or recommend Spotify. Also, check out the 5 Reasons YouTube channel for all your South Florida sports content, including our new NFL draft show. Make sure that you jump on there and catch Simon and Kyle Krabs. It's a great combination as part of our 3 yards per carry family. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. We're running more stage shows there, doing transaction talk leading up to the trade deadline. We'll do one just about every other day. Somehow I spent an hour and a half there the other day. I don't know if that'll happen again. We got 10 different channels. Also, you can catch the host updates with comments from everybody who's part of our 5RSN Heat and NBA teams. So check it out. It's Off the Floor. The link's right there in the description, and you'll bypass the Apple upcharge. Also, check out Prize Picks. Use the code 5FIVE. Put down your $5. You get $50 in free lineups. Those will be on the Explore page. Again, if you see another code in there, delete it. Add ours. Ours is better. Also, the link is in the description, and it'll take you right to it, and it'll populate. So legal in the state of Florida. We've got the championship games coming up this weekend. I don't know if anybody in Miami cares because they don't want to watch the Patriots. But PrizePicks.com. Use the code FIVE. And now, today's episode.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation. We the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket. Open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pick. Still 5 on the floor. Still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court. Still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball. Or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleepy paths or allowed to mornings. The nut is sleeping us. Never catch us snoring. Live from Miami. Report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the courts to the streets. Yeah. Wake County, Heat Nation, we say it proudly.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, by now you've probably finally finished the Brady Alex epic post-game show off the Heat's loss in Portland. I let the kids run the circus basically yesterday, and they did a great job as usual. Much more educated basketball talk than you'll get from me or Greg. So they handled it. Of course, the Heat lost. Another bad defensive performance. That's their second on this road trip. Portland and Golden State were not good. Sacramento in the middle was better. Now they go to Utah, then they go to Chicago, then they play Chicago twice more. And that's kind of why we're going to bring on Geo here. We got our guy Geo Valdez. You can find him at Coach Geo. He's going to tell you a little bit about what he does outside of this. Haven't had him on for a bit and wanted to kind of check back in with you because you were one of the folks in our network who gave us a word before the season started for what this season would be. Do you remember your word?
I do not remember my word.
You do not remember your word. I don't either. I had it written down here somewhere. It was probably something about, most of the words were about growth and sort of getting out of mediocrity and all of that kind of stuff, which they have not done. And so I want to cycle back with you here at the midway point, and we're just going to talk about them being average. There's a two long episodes that I did recently, one with Brian Fonseca, where we went through the entire Eastern Conference and do the Heat need to make a move more than some other teams? And then a podcast I did with Greg. We got to touch on it because he's unhappy. It's clear, even though the Bucks seem to think that they can make a finals run just because he's on the roster. We talked about Giannis and how his discontent is the Heat's opportunity. And really, to me, what this is all about at this stage. But we're going to talk about them being average. And I guess the question we're going to pose is, I mean, are they actually making progress and building something, or are they just treading water? And I want to go through some numbers here because this era is starting to look a little bit like one not that long ago. And again, the Heat have not had many of this eras. It's typically they've either been really good, consistently good for a period of time, or they had like one drop year. Like you take a look at 07-08 where they won 15 games. And then they had 2 years that were a little better than average with Dwayne and not a whole lot else. Apologies to Quentin Richardson and the rest of that group, Jermaine O'Neal, etc. Then, of course, they had the Big Three era where 50 wins were expected, provided, again, it wasn't a lockout-shortened season. But then after LeBron left, and then after they had a really nice team in 15-16 that lost in the second round, mostly because Whiteside was hurt and Bosch was sick, and so they didn't get a chance to play the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals, a series I think they could have won.
Mm-hmm.
After that, Gio, here was a little stretch of time. Here was 3 seasons between 2016 and 2019. Now, the first season, 2016-17, is known as the 30-11 season, and everybody kind of forgets the 11-30 part, which preceded it. They went 41-41. Deion Waiters got hurt in the last couple of weeks, hurt his ankle, and they missed the playoffs by 1 game. So they finished 41-41. Then, of course, after the next season, Dwayne came back for nothing in terms of compensation, a second-round pick that didn't convey. And over those 3 seasons, and again, that last season was really just about Dwayne and the Last Dance and all that. I mean, it was a marketing season, essentially. They went 124 and 122. Okay? That's as average as you can be. 124 and 122. They had a playoff series loss to Philly. Again, they missed the playoffs the other 2 years. The Last Dance year, that's what it's known for. And we'll get into what happened the year after. But 2006 through 2019, 124 and 122. After losing the Blazers last night over the last 3+ seasons, this is more than 3.5 seasons, they're 150 and 143. They're average. I mean, there's a finals run in there, and I know that's what folks in the front office and all that will point to. They did make a finals run, no question about that, but they've been in the play-in 3 straight years, and right now they'd be in the play-in again. What do you make of this era? Before we get to what will get them out of it, what do you make of what they're doing right now?
Well, I think that there's no clear direction. And that's, I think, the thing that frustrates at least myself. I'll speak for myself. I know a lot of Heat fans have differing opinions, but as someone that, worked at the arena and was there the 4 LeBron years, and I've been a fan since the late 90s when Zoe came into town, it just seems like a different tone, the team, in terms of, you never had to question a Heat team's effort. And you're seeing that consistently over the past few seasons, where there's moments where, you see that they can compete with anyone, but then they can also lose to anyone. And my thought process is, okay, just pick a direction, right? Because I think Heat fans would prefer to see a team that's either tanking or a team that's going all the way in, as opposed to having now a 4th or 5th straight season where you'll be in the play-in. So I think that's the first thought that comes to mind with their current situation is that they are a mid, right? A mid or average team.
Well, and it would be their 4th, because the year before they had the 1 seed. That was the 21-22 season, and they were a Jimmy 3 away from going to the finals. And I do think, again, that could have been a championship year, just like 2020 could have been a championship year if Goran and Bam don't get hurt. There's a lot of what ifs in Heat history. I guess the problem right now is there's no what if. They're average, even though there's really nothing that's keeping them from being. There's no dramatic thunderbolt event that is keeping them from being better. And I want to get to Hero in a second, but there were thunderbolt events over Heat history that prevented them from having the elite team or winning a title when maybe they had the opportunity. There's Zoe getting sick after the 99-2000 season, when they had finally flipped that roster, when Pat had flipped the roster and he brought in Brian Grant, and he brought in Eddie Jones, and he brought in Anthony Mason, and you added that to Hardaway and Mourning and Bruce Bowen, and you're like, okay, like this team can compete for a title. And then Zoe doesn't show up at FAU because he fails a physical. And then they go 42-27 without him. He comes back. They go 8-5. I know this so bad. I don't know what I did last night, but I can remember this. I remember all of this. Dwayne Coswell's start, all of this. I know my whole brain is just taken up with Heat history. And so and then of course they go 8-5, and they get blitzed by Kenny Robinson and Ricky Davis in a 3 and Jamal Mashburn.
The revenge.
Mash's best moments as a pro came against the Heat after he was traded, and then Pat says we're embarrassed and all the rest of that, and that was kind of the end of that. So there was that. Then there was, of course, Bosch getting sick in 15-16. I've mentioned that one already.
Or D-Wade's rib. D Wade's rib.
D Wade's rib in 2000, the 2005 Eastern Conference Final, Game 7, where Stan fed him anyway. Shaq got pissed off about it. That led to what happened the next season. Of course, they made the trades and then they won. They did win the championship, so that ended up working out. And by the way, we're gonna have a bunch of episodes. Our guy Mateo Mayorga did a ton of interviews about the 2006 team, and now that the Heat are honoring them too, we're gonna roll all those back out next week. Okay, so that's another Thunderbolt moment. And of course, there's other Thunderbolt moments. I mean, what if LeBron didn't leave? I mean, that's sort of an off-the-court thing. But there have been things that have happened. I mentioned Dion getting hurt in the last 2 weeks of that season. They would have probably gotten to the playoffs after going 30-11. Dragic and Bam getting hurt in the 2020 finals, all these things. The problem right now is there's no dramatic event that's keeping them from being better. They're just not better. And I we talk about them being younger. But we can talk about Hero's injury, and I think it's hurt in terms of their continuity, but I don't know that their record would be any different if he'd played 35, 40 games than if he's played 11, right? I know your feelings on this. You don't think so, right?
No, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, there's no answer currently on this roster that's going to make them a top 3 seed. Maybe they win 2 or 3 more games if Tyler's healthy, if Khalil gets more minutes with more effort. And best case scenario, this team is, I think before the season, I said that this team is a top 6 team in the East, if healthy. They haven't been, but they've never been healthy.
No. Well, that's the thing. But the thing is, nobody's healthy. That's the other part of this. Like, now that I've started running some of these other sites for Sports Illustrated, and I look daily at the Memphis Grizzlies injury report, which is like a CVS. It's like a CVS receipt. Okay. except you don't get the $2 off the Head and Shoulders. Like, it's unbelievable what you see. And so it's not just them, and they've been reasonably healthy with the exception of Tyler. Like, Bam missed a little time. Norm has missed a game here or there. He's been banged up. Hawk has missed a little time, but I mean, they haven't had, catastrophic injuries like some of these other teams have had. It's just been Tyler. And I think that the Tyler in and out uncertainty has been more damaging to them than actually Tyler being out. Like, the first 17 games, they knew they wouldn't have Tyler for roughly that stretch. They adjusted. They played well. He came back. Then you're like, okay, maybe they'll be able to figure this out. You see what he looks like with Powell. And then he goes out again after playing the one game in Orlando, right? And then he comes back, and now he's hurt again. I mean, you can't get any kind of continuity when you're doing that. Okay, so here's the thing, though. Okay, you said, I think, the key point that there's no answer on this current roster, right? We've seen growth from some guys. Jovic, we've not. Larson, we have.
Yeah. Yes.
Davion, I think, is kind of where he was last year. I mean, the assist-to-turnover ratio is better. He's ball handling more. His shooting is down a little bit. I don't think his defense has been quite at the level that it was when he came last year, but it's been good. Wiggins is not a guy you're looking for growth from. I mean, he's, obviously he's in his 30s.
He is who he is.
He is who he is. And Norm is who he is. It's been good. It's been really good. But as far as the young guys go, again, there's the never-ending story of what Spo really thinks of Ware and what he's really trying to get out of him and why he's treated him differently than he's pretty much treated any player since Hassan. And I think he's treated him even more differently than he did Hassan. But this is the point that you're making, and we'll get to this on the other side, I think. There's no answer on this roster. So I mentioned what happened after that 2016 to 2019 run of 124 and 122 is they got Jimmy, right?
Yeah.
So really, that's all this is about right now, isn't it? It's not, the answers are not necessarily on the current roster. The answers are in Milwaukee, right? Isn't that what we're talking about?
Well, if you think about it, Ethan, right? So let's go back to 2019-20 when they really pulled off that it's a heist how they got Jimmy, right? So they get Jimmy. They have a successful season. I think the only reason they don't win 50 games that year is because of COVID.
Yes,
because they were
44 and 29, right? So COVID, right? And they were trending.
They were trending.
They were also struggling right before COVID. They lost by 30 at home to Charlotte.
But,
right. Remember, again, useless information in my head. 44 and 29. But yeah, they were a 50-win team that year. Yes, and they proved that in the bubble, by the way, that they were a 50-win level team.
Yeah, like those first 4 Jimmy years, right? Like the first season. The second year, listen, I don't count that year because that year they had like 2 months off.
Right.
and nothing really happened. The third year they brought Kyle back in. That was like the perfect Heat team. That was like the most conditioned, all that stuff. That 21-22 Heat team was the like prototypical Heat team.
With PJ Tucker.
With PJ Tucker, yes, he brought a
Right.
different life to that team, and I mean Depot, like they had even the guys out on the bench, like Markieff Morris, like everybody was a dog on that team, the kennel. And then the year after, obviously they didn't have the season that they wanted, but it wasn't like they were trash, right? Like they kind of
Right.
fell off towards the end of the season, and then we saw the magic that they had. After that, things kind of got a little weird there. But the point is this Heat roster currently, right? The missing piece is a superstar that can overcome the deficiencies that this team has. Like every other team that has a superstar or an all NBA kind of player, right? A top 15, top 20 player. Every team that has a guy like that can overcome some of the deficiencies. And then when you have a guy like Bam that's already covering up some of the defensive deficiencies,
Mm.
you need an offensive player that would do that. And this roster just doesn't have it. So that's why I say that they have a ceiling as to I think they can be a top 6 seed if everything's clicking. But unless they have a Giannis or an all NBA type of talent, they're really not going to
Well, and the point that you make there is relevant when we talk about Giannis, because I feel like the Heat could trade a good portion of the current roster for Giannis and still have more for Giannis than he has in Milwaukee.
yeah,
And
for
that's one of the
sure.
points that I was trying to make on the last pod. There's enough good young pieces here and enough role playing type pieces who could be effective on a winning team with the North Star. They don't have a North Star. And so because of that, it's just like, okay, when they get a night where they're all shooting well, okay, and there's some rhythm to that, right? And we know one guy's shooting well, another guy starts shooting well. That's just what happens, okay? And the ball starts to pop, and then you'll actually play defense because you're feeling good about your offense. And when that happens, they can beat anybody. Like we said, like they look pretty damn good, okay? Sometimes they can do it for a quarter, sometimes they can do it for half. But since they don't have that guy, they could just give the ball to and get the hell out of the way. On the nights that they're all not shooting well, there's nowhere to go. And so you even see last night, like, okay, so Bam had the huge game against OKC. Like I said, they can beat anybody. They just beat OKC. They've beaten Detroit. They've also lost to Indiana. So right.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole point. Is Giannis is a megastar. In that roster in Milwaukee is one of the worst rosters I've ever seen around a megastar, and yet they're basically 500 when he plays. Okay, he gets them to 500, but that is their ceiling, whether they want to believe it or not. On the other side is we'll talk about where growth can come from this team, so we actually feel good about the season. If they don't get a Giannis, if they don't sort of decide that, okay, we're going to get more engaged for Ja and they'll maybe get him for nothing, where would the growth come from? Like, how would we actually feel good about this year? Because right now I'm having trouble finding a lot of green shoots. I really am. And I'm an optimist and I'm mostly a believer in this front office, but I don't think a lot of things that they wanted to go right this year have gone right. The important things, the guy they paid, Jovic, I mean, we have daily conversations about his confidence, and now they have to pay Jaquez. So it's like it didn't even work out with the right guy popping, honestly. In terms of that, the Powell Hero thing is a disaster right now because you haven't seen them together. It's a lot of stuff that ain't great, even though I do think they're a little better positioned than they've been in past years. All right, if you want to be positioned to eat better, particularly if you have no time like me, and you can't cook like me, you got to check out everyplate.com. I'm going to give you the entire thing later so that you can get this great deal. EveryPlate is the go-to dinner solution for busy families juggling work, school, and activities. I know that Geo has a lot of that as well. When you have kids, like $22 in fees to DoorDash every night. Okay, so here you got to check out EveryPlate affordable meal kit, which sometimes I do. Affordable meal kit that simplifies balancing school pickups and everything else that goes on here. If you typically have a chaotic weekday evening, this is absolutely for you. So check it out. Okay, again, go to everyplate.com. Affordable meal kit that simplifies the weeknight cooking. Again, if you don't have the time for the battles and you want to they got great chicken dishes. They've got more veggie forward options. It's healthy, cheaper than the grocery store, and again, half the price of those delivery services and takeout. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to EveryPlate, okay? and you'll get $2.99 per meal on your first box, plus free steak for a month. Go to everyplate.com/podcast. Use the code ONTHEFLOORSTEAK. That's ONTHEFLOORSTEAK to claim your offer. Everyplate.com/podcast to get $2.99 per meal on your first box, plus free steak for a month. The offer varies by plan. One free 10-ounce serving of steak per box for 4 weeks with an active subscription. Ditch the dinner time dilemmas with EveryPlate. Again, the code is on the floor steak. Okay, so what would make you feel better about, what are we at now? What game are they? They're 45. So they got 37 games left. Okay. And what would make you feel better about this season? Is it just a trade at this point, or is it Spo letting Ware run and suddenly clicking with him, and you go into next season thinking, okay, we have an elite asset or an elite starter? Is that all there is right now? I'm just trying to figure out, or is it just, okay, you got a first round pick for Wiggins? Where are we?
There's several ways that this can go, right? I said earlier, they got to just pick a direction, man. At this point, I understand that they want to make the playoffs and the Heat are never going to tank and the whole deal, but we live in a different era, man. Like, you're not really going to sign. Players want their money. You're not going to sign anybody in free agency. So, like, either accumulate assets or go all the way in, right? So a few things with the current roster that they can do. Listen, I get it. I know that there's been questions on Khalil's motor. We knew those questions coming into the draft. Everybody knew who Khalil was, but at the end of the day, he's the one guy on this roster that has the highest ceiling, just because of his athleticism, his length, and we saw what he was racking up double doubles while he was in there. And yes, I know there's guys out there that the numbers guys that will say, well, look at the net rating while he's in there, and look at. I get that, I understand that, but you got to let your young guys play. You got to develop on the court. Not just getting 9 minutes a game because you want to start Tyler Hero or because Drew Smith is dribbling the ball off his foot. Like, you need to get the guys that you drafted, okay? Not these undrafted guys. You need to go ahead and invest into these young guys' development, not just behind the scenes, but also with playing time. Pelle Larsson needs to be in the starting lineup. I don't care who you move out of there.
Mm-hmm.
When that guy's in the game, he makes a difference. I'm not saying he's their best player, but he's a winning player. He makes winning plays. He gets under people's skin. Every time he guards someone, they're not going to get an easy bucket. They might score on him, but they're going to work for that bucket. So he needs to be getting a lot of playing time. And Nico, man, I think they paid him too soon. But the same leash that he gets, some other guys on this team need to get, like Khalil, for example. Tyler needs to get healthy and show us something, because you can't have your all-stars just not playing. If you're going to have your team reach ultimately their ceiling, whatever that may be, whether it's play-in, whether it's a top 6 seed, whatever the case is, they need to mesh and they all need to be healthy. I think those are the things, Pelle needs to be a starter. Khalil needs to get more minutes, whether it's starting or on the bench. And that Norm and Tyler backcourt, they just got to figure it out, and for whether it's good or bad, they just got to figure that out.
I think they have figured it out. They have to have at this point, right? Like, I mean, we've seen it for how many games did they play together? I think 7, because Tyler's played 11, but Norm missed some of those, and we're talking about such a low minute count. I'm just dubious on Tyler's going to come back and all of a sudden it's going to blend. I'm with you on, and so again, that affects your financial decisions.
Yeah.
And Norm has not signed an extension yet. He's a free agent at the end of the year. We keep having all these conversations about Tyler. Tyler at least has another year. Like, they don't have to do anything
they don't.
regarding Tyler. They have a decision to make on Norm. That one comes sooner, and then they'll have a decision to make on Jaquez, right? So
I would say this, Ethan. This is, people think I'm a Tyler hater. It's not that I'm a hater. I have a preference for two-way players. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The best Heat season that we've seen in the past 6 years, regular season wise, was when Tyler came off the bench.
Yeah.
And that's just my thought process. I think that starting
so
lineup.
Who would you start? I'm with you. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. Larson and Bam start, and I think Larson, Bam, and Norm are starters. I
Yes.
don't. Okay, so those we start with those 3. So now you're talking about, you have Davion, you have Ware, you have Wiggins, and you have Tyler, right? Those are the 4 options for the other 2 spots.
I
So which
wouldn't
2 are
start.
you starting?
I wouldn't start Ware just because they don't have a third center. They need a big. Nico's not a big, so you
No.
need Khalil to be off the bench for that specific reason. Unless they acquire a big, if they are able to acquire a big, then that's a different conversation. But I think you got to have Wiggins in there. He's been good. He's been good. We can't really say. I mean, he's never going to be that first pick in the draft that everyone expected him to
Yeah.
be, but he's still a very good player. And if they're not going to get a first round pick for him, you got to start him. So I'll go Bam, I go Pella, I go Norm, I go Wiggs, and then that probably leaves you with Davion.
Okay.
Small, but I mean, there's
So
no
so
other
you're so
options.
you're bringing Tyler and Khalil off the bench, basically.
I would with
Yeah.
Jaime. I mean, I think that'll be a nice uh
I mean,
bench
it feels
unit.
like that's what Spo is setting up for with the lineup he's using now. I don't think you can justify putting Larson on the bench. I just don't.
No.
I don't. He makes your team better and he connects them. He doesn't need the ball, but he can do something with it. I don't think to me that's not negotiable at this point. Like he starts, Norm starts, Bam starts, and the only reason it's not that I think Wiggins has played poorly. He hasn't. Okay, he has moments where he's really good. And he has moments where he's like, "Don't dribble, please." So it's kind of, there's not a lot of in between there. Even though his numbers kind of end up in between, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he's more mean than median, right? Like if you were to compare the
Yeah.
two, like the mean ends up somewhere. Okay, he's a serviceable B minus, NBA starter. Okay, but there's some A minus and there's some D in there. It just depends on the day or the
Mm-hmm.
quarter. But it's my thing on Wiggins is that if you're not starting him to showcase him for a trade, I don't see the point long term in getting him the extra minutes. Because again, he's got one more year left on his contract, but he's
Mm-hmm.
other side of 30. Norm's a different story. Because again, you need what Norm provides offensively just to be competitive.
Yeah.
And keep him as a starter. And also, if you're trying to sign him long term, if you're the ones trying to sign him, and I know he wants to be in Miami, but
Yeah.
then you're not going to bring him off the bench after the season he's had. That's not negotiable either. So it's Norm, it's Bam, and it's Larson.
Yeah. And listen,
I
Norm's.
might start Ware to see what it looks like. That's the only. I might start Ware over Wiggins. He's not going to do it, but
No.
that's the one I would look at. But I'm with you on the Tyler thing, and I've never been one, even though he was great as a six man. I won money on him being six man that year. I projected that before the season. He's great in that role. I've never been the one to push it like some others have. I don't know that it has necessarily mattered as much as some people think it has, but I also think the instability that's been created by his in, out, in, out, in, out means you just
Yeah.
commit to him coming off the bench for the rest of the year. That's it. Like you can't put him back in the starting lineup now again, and then he goes out again, and then you have to
Yeah.
deal with that again. Like you bring him off the bench. If he gets 30 minutes, he gets 30 minutes. But then at least, and if he closes, he closes. But I just don't. This forcing him into the starting lineup because you wanted to see what him and Powell look like together.
It hasn't worked. It hasn't
worked.
worked, Ethan. It
hasn't
has
worked.
not since he's been a starter. This team has, and I'm not putting it on him. I'm not
They're
saying it's his
I know,
fault.
but you're right though. They are
It's not his fault.
They are 500 career with him as a starter.
It's not his fault. If you're gonna have a player like Tyler who has his strengths, every
Yes.
player has strengths and weaknesses. But if you're gonna have him as a starter, you need to surround him with the people that can cover for his weaknesses, and they don't have that.
They don't have it. Davion can help him defensively, but Davion's not big enough to guard up.
Correct.
Right. So that comes, and Wiggins has too many other responsibilities to cover for him, as does Bam. So then, like you said, and then Norm can't cover for him because Norm can guard his own guy sometimes. So I'm with you. I don't.
Unless you slide in Pella and say Davion.
Pella starts. You and I agree on that.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah, for sure.
Actually, I don't think there's many at our network who don't agree at this point. I know where Brady is, where Alex is. The guy has established himself as a winning player who makes other players better. Again, Bam, Norm, and Pella figure out the rest. All right, Geo, I appreciate it. Again, check out EveryPlate. Use our code ONTHEFLOORSTEAK. And Geo, where else can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter, on X. Sorry, it's been 2 years and I still mix them up.
At Twitter.
At Geo Valdez _, and then on Instagram, YouTube, anywhere else as Coach Geo.
Okay. So check out all this. Yeah, you're much bigger on Instagram than I am. You're like an Instagram superstar. All right, Gio, we appreciate it. We're gonna have you on more often. Also a post game. I think Greg's back on Saturday hosting a post game show. I'll be popping on a couple episodes on the weekend as well. Have a good one, everybody.